I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Hold on a second, is this actually happening? There are whispers going around that Rachel Zegler, who stars as Disney's new Snow White, is feeling so overwhelmed after the film's poor performance that she's trying to stay out of the public eye. Some sources even claim that Disney is asking for a whopping $200 million in damages. Just the other day, Rachel was seen at the airport, keeping her head down and hurrying past reporters. Her lack of comments is only making the situation more intense. When Rachel Zegler landed the role of Snow White, it was framed as a dream come true, a young, rising Latina actress stepping into one of Disney's most iconic roles.
Just kind of, hand waves it like she's still some sort of victim, when in reality, she should be a movie star. She should be happy. She should be, apolitical, positive, but she's not that way. She loves Kamala Harris. She was, as woke as they are. And, the saying, go woke, get broke. And Disney's going to lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
It should have been a moment of triumph, a celebration of diversity and progress, but almost immediately the magic started to unravel. Instead of applause, there was backlash. Critics and a portion of the audience questioned the decision to cast a Latina actress in the role of a traditionally white princess. What should have been a landmark moment turned into a lightning rod for controversy. The fairy tale was already cracking before the cameras even rolled. As filming began and promotional clips started to circulate, things only got worse. Old interviews resurfaced where Rachel shared her views on the original 1937 Snow White film, and they weren't flattering. She criticized the storyline as outdated, especially the idea of a woman needing to be rescued by a man. Her remarks were interpreted by many as an attack on a beloved Disney classic. What Rachel viewed as honest and progressive, others saw as disrespectful and arrogant.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows.
Social media lit up with criticism, and suddenly Rachel wasn't just an actress promoting a movie, she was a cultural flashpoint. In one now infamous interview, Rachel said, "There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird, weird." That soundbite was shared endlessly, often without context, fueling a narrative that Rachel had no respect for the film she was remaking. Her words made headlines and became ammunition for those already critical of the film's casting and tone. Even though she later tried to soften her stance, emphasizing how grateful she was for the role, the damage was already done. The comment became a symbol of everything fans feared about this remake, that it was turning its back on the magic that made the original timeless. As controversy grew, Disney's promotional efforts began to change in tone and scale. The film's premiere was uncharacteristically quiet. Instead of the usual red carpet extravaganza, it was a small afternoon event closed off to press.
Weird.
This raised eyebrows, especially since other Disney films like Moana 2 had received full media rollouts. People began to wonder if Disney was deliberately minimizing the spotlight on Rachel, trying to steer the narrative elsewhere. It seemed like the studio that once proudly announced her casting was now quietly backing away. When the film finally hit theaters on March 21st, it opened to numbers far below expectations. The movie made just $43 million domestically in its first weekend, a shocking result for a film that reportedly cost over $350 million to make and promote. Even older and less hyped remakes had fared better. The box office disappointment wasn't just bad, it was catastrophic. The excitement that should have surrounded the release of a Disney princess film just wasn't there. The audience didn't show up, and the reasons why were starting to pile up.
Classic film that established the Disney name. This is such a magical night.
The reviews that followed were no kinder than the box office. Rotten Tomatoes held the film at a painful 42%, with many critics calling it lifeless, awkward, or worse. Some praised Rachel's singing and screen presence, but others found her performance overacted and out of sync with the film's tone. Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, was singled out in some reviews as a miscast, with one outlet calling her performance absolutely abhorrent.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very Evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood.
The Guardian labeled the film toe-curlingly terrible. It became clear this wasn't just a financial flop, it was an artistic misfire too. As the dust settled after Snow White's disastrous opening weekend, an explosive rumor began to dominate headlines and social media alike. Disney was reportedly seeking $200 million in damages from Rachel Zegler. The number was staggering, almost surreal. People were stunned. How could a studio possibly hold one young actress financially responsible for the flop of a massive studio-led film? The claim, unverified and unsubstantiated by any official source, took off like wildfire. Online forums, fan pages, and Twitter threads buzzed with speculation. Some believed it was a leaked internal demand, others thought it was a calculated PR distraction, while many dismissed it as pure internet fiction. Still, the mere idea of such a demand stuck. And that's the thing with rumors. Truth doesn't matter as much as traction.
Disney's Snow White currently sits at a 1.7 out of 10 on IMDb. That is the lowest score of any of the Disney remakes.
Whether or not Disney ever issued such a demand, the public perception was shifting fast. Rachel wasn't just the face of the movie anymore. She was quickly being painted as the cause of its collapse, and this rumor added weight to that narrative. While the media frenzy spun out of control, Rachel Zegler said nothing. At least not directly. Instead, she posted a quiet, emotionally raw video on Instagram. No press statements, no PR spin. Just her, in front of a camera, looking noticeably drained. Her tone was soft, her voice slightly trembling, her eyes avoiding direct contact with the lens as if each word cost her something. It wasn't long, nor was it particularly revealing in terms of content, but the subtext spoke volumes. Viewers picked up on her fragility, her exhaustion, the barely concealed stress behind the smile she tried to wear.
One who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
It didn't take much for fans and critics to interpret it as a cry for space, if not help. The vibrant, outspoken actress who once confidently spoke about rewriting fairy tales now seemed quieter, reflective, almost cornered. It wasn't an official response, but in a world where optics matter, her silence was louder than any statement. The moment the film bombed, a collective scramble began. Everyone involved wanted to step out of the blast radius, and that meant finding someone to blame. As is often the case in Hollywood, the person most visible bore the brunt. Rachel was the lead. She had made the controversial comments. She had become a viral topic, and so the crosshairs locked in on her. One of the most direct and scathing condemnations came from Jonah Platt, son of Snow White's producer Mark Platt. In a bold Instagram post, Jonah accused Rachel of narcissism, saying she hijacked the spotlight to push personal politics and derailed the entire film's press tour.
Snow White, right?
Yeah.
Like, you guys watch the movie? No, of course not.
It's not for me. I don't rage watch movies. Like, it was like, Jeff, I can't wait to hear your opinion on Barbie. I'm like, I know it's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm not Ben Shapiro. I'm not going to do a 2-hour episode about how I watched a movie I knew I'd hate.
He claimed her behavior had risked the jobs of countless behind-the-scenes workers and painted her as someone who needed to be reprimanded like a child. It wasn't just harsh, it was personal. Jonah's comments ignited even more debate, intensifying the sense that Rachel wasn't just being criticized, she was being made the villain of the entire production. Amid the noise, not everyone turned their backs on Rachel. Actress Melissa Barrera, who herself had faced career backlash for speaking out about Palestine, showed her support. She reposted screenshots defending Rachel, including a powerful message that reframed the Variety article portraying Rachel as difficult and radical. To Melissa, it made Rachel look cool as hell and full of integrity. It wasn't just one person standing up either. Over 50 film journalists, critics, and media professionals came together to publish an open letter condemning the scapegoating of Rachel. They pointed out the disturbing trend of blaming young women, but especially women of color, for systemic failures. The letter directly called out how Rachel's political stances, especially her vocal support for Palestine, were being weaponized against her in an industry where silence is often expected.
This is Snow White. You're supposed to be promoting Snow White, who's the fairest of them all. The point of Snow White was that she transcends all these things. Her purity is what makes everything good in the movie.
Their message was simple. Holding one actress accountable for a studio-wide failure wasn't just unfair, it was dangerous. Behind all the finger-pointing and viral narratives lies a more grounded, less dramatic truth. Snow White failed because it didn't connect with audiences. The marketing never really created buzz. From the start, the public felt uncertain, unsure of what the film was even trying to be. Was it a modern retelling, a satire, a critique of its own source material? The tone was muddled. The controversies, from Rachel's interviews to the film's attempt to reframe the classic romance, created confusion rather than anticipation. Instead of people lining up to experience nostalgia, many were left asking, who is this for? In an age where people have endless entertainment options at their fingertips, a movie needs to stand out. Snow White simply didn't. It wasn't just a victim of politics or bad press.
Crying on that stage.
When am I not crying in public? It's so upsetting.
It was a film that never really knew how to sell itself. If Snow White had come out 5 years earlier, maybe it would have found its footing. But by 2025, Disney's remake formula had started to wear thin. The novelty of live-action versions of animated classics, which worked wonders for The Lion King, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast, had slowly given way to cynicism. Audiences started to feel like the magic was gone, replaced by recycled scripts and safe studio decisions. The sparkle that once drew people to theaters had dulled. Instead of excitement, people met new remakes with skepticism or indifference. Snow White wasn't just another victim, it was the latest casualty in a trend that had run its course. The film didn't offer anything truly new, and audiences could sense that. It felt like a copy of a copy, too caught between progress and tradition to be either magical or memorable. All of this brings us to one uncomfortable possibility, that Rachel Zegler was made the scapegoat for a much larger failure. Yes, she spoke out. Yes, she gave interviews that stirred controversy. But at the end of the day, she was an actress hired to play a role in a massive machine run by hundreds of executives, writers, marketers, and decision makers. She didn't approve the script, she didn't direct the movie, she didn't design the ad campaigns or set the budget. Yet somehow, she's the one under fire. It's easier perhaps to blame one outspoken woman than to examine the deeper flaws in the studio's strategy. Her name, her face, and her words became a lightning rod, but it's possible she was just the most visible piece of a broken puzzle. Whether people realize it or not, scapegoating her distracts from a deeper conversation about how big-budget films are made and marketed in the first place. Now comes the hardest part, the aftermath. Rachel Zegler is at a crossroads in her career. One path leads to retreat, taking time away from the spotlight, letting the storm pass, and regrouping before making any big moves. The other leads to reinvention, leaning into roles that let her reset the narrative, show her range, and prove she's more than just the girl from Snow White. Indie films, stage work, or prestige streaming projects could give her a space to rebuild. There's also the music route, where she already has talent, or even activism, where she's found a voice many resonate with. But whichever path she chooses, it has to be intentional, because this moment, painful as it may be, is defining. It will shape how studios see her, how audiences remember her, and how she chooses to take back her story. The next step won't just be about work, it'll be about legacy.